So in this video, we're going to be talking about the way to identify opportunities when it comes to upselling at the front desk in a hotel. And it doesn't matter if you are booking a hostel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star hotel, a luxury hotel. It's all about getting information from the customer or about the customer. And there are three main ways to get that information. Number one, it's the visual information. And even though you might have reservation information, obviously before the arrival, the first contact I will have with the guest when it comes to the reception at the check-in stage is the visual information. So you're working at the desk and you see a guest coming towards you. And you might be checking in somebody else, but you still see the one or the family or the couple coming behind that guest you're checking in. And you see the clothes they're wearing, and you might hear the language they're speaking, so you know where they're coming from maybe. And you see the amount of luggage they have, the type of luggage, the accessories, the mood they're in, how they come into a reception. If they're coming fast, it means probably they know the hotel already. If they've never been in the hotel before, they may be coming wandering around where the desk is. They have to be directed toward the desk, so you know if they visited the hotel or not before. All that information is very, very useful then when it comes to the check-in stage, because you already have, even before you have exchanged any words, any conversation with your customer, you already have a lot of information from them. Number two is the reservation information. So after the guests arrive to the desk, you ask them, can I get your name or can I help you with anything? And say, yes, I'm checking in, please. So you're going to ask them for their last name. You put in the system on your PMS and you get loads of information. So if you close your eyes now and think about the screen that you have on your PMS, you have 20, 30 different information points for your reservation. So you have the name of the guest, you have when they made the reservation, how much they're paying, if it's prepaid or paid on checkout, the length of the stay, the room category they booked, how early in advance they booked, the source, the channel, the segment, you know that, right? So you have all these different boxes in the PMS, and in 5 seconds, you review them quickly so you get that profile of the customer. And with the visual information you have in front of you from those few seconds from the guest approaching you, plus all the information you get on the PMS, then you start your conversation. But I know you know that information, but it's important to remind it, because in only 5-10 seconds, you have 20, 30, 40 different information points, data points, that are very useful when it comes to the conversation. Now, focusing on the reservation information, let's start with, for example, with the length of a stay. So which guests are more willing, usually statistically, to go for an upsell? The one staying shorter or one staying longer? So it depends on the hotel. Usually for city hotels, the ones staying longer than the average are more willing to go for an extra space in the room or the massage or the breakfast. Why? Because if you're getting business guests staying only for one night, most commonly they only need a bed and a shower, really. They only stay in a few hours in the hotel, so any room will do. But if you have people staying for 2, 3, 4 nights, talking about urban destinations, then they're going to spend more time in the room. There might be a special occasion, celebrating something, and that's why they might want to prefer to have more space, to have maybe a view, living room, and so on. Now, when it comes to resorts, it tends to be the opposite. The guests with more potential for upsell tend to be the ones staying shorter than the average length of stay of your property. Reason being, in most resorts, especially in remote locations, average length of a stay is going to be around 7 nights, in most cases, 6, 7 nights. Guests staying longer than the average, we're talking about 9, 10, 11 nights, usually package holidays. They already have a large budget invested on the holidays, so going that extra item times 12 times 14 nights, that's a lot of money. But on the opposite side, guests staying 3, 4, 5 nights, like a shorter escape to that destination, they have that extra budget on the pocket to go for that special view, for the jacuzzi in the room, and so on. So based on your location, you might aim more for some guests or others. Important point here is that not every arrival has potential for upsell. So imagine, for example, you have 100 arrivals every day. So especially in city hotels, you might have a number of arrivals that are business guests. Corporate guests coming every week, you know them, they know you, you know they want a quick check-in. Companies paying for the rooms, very unlikely they're going to go for a suite or access to the lounge or anything like that. Then we have some hotels, you have groups checking in. Those groups, usually one person comes to get the keys for everyone, they distribute the keys throughout the lobby. You don't really have the access to talk to anyone individually. So there is no chance whatsoever to do an upsell. And then you have the rest of the reservations. So let's say out of 100, maybe you had like 20 from corporate, 30 from groups, you have 50 left. let's call them the lesser arrivals. Some of them coming for one night, checking in late, checking out early, all they need, a bed and a shower. Then you have guests who might have a language barrier. So they don't speak the language you speak, they don't speak English either. So if you can't communicate with them, how could you think about selling? It's very unlikely that's going to happen. And then you have guests who are grumpy, who for whichever reason they had a bad day, they had a bad flight, they are delayed and tired, and they don't want to talk to you, and that's fine, okay? So out of these 100 arrivals, you might end up with only 15 customers with whom you can have a, say, normal check-in, like a full conversation. And it's just a couple of minutes, no more than that, you know that. But it's with them with whom you might have the opportunity to go through the questions. How are you? How was your trip? And see if they're willing to talk, if they're going to tell you about their plans. And then it's when you're going to realize if it makes sense to position the upsell. So out of those 100 arrivals, you might end up having only 10 customers who are willing to have a conversation, maybe going for an upsell. And statistically, that's normal. So upselling 10 or every 100 arrivals is already a very good number, especially if you throw in breakfast, parking, depending on the property. So it's up to you to try with 100 times every day, but you're going to get probably a 90 guests saying no to you every single day, and that's very frustrating, right? So focus on the ones with whom you believe there is an option. So we said reservation information, visual information, okay? Focusing on the reservation, we touched topic, length of a stay. What else? Amount spent. So sometimes we tend to target guests who are spending more money because we believe they have more money. That's why they booked a higher rate. And then we don't try with customers paying very low rate because we say, well, poor guys, they don't have enough money. That's why they book a very low rate. That's wrong. Right? Maybe they're loaded, but they just found a very good offer online. That's why they went for the cheapest option on Expedia, for example, or any other OTA. And on the other side, guests who paid a lot of money, maybe paying that rate is already a stretch for them, but they decided last night they had to travel, they couldn't find any other cheaper option. That's why they went for the higher rate. So we cannot judge any guest based on, we cannot judge any guest, period. But focusing on the rate, that cannot be a deciding point if going for the higher, going for the lower. It has to be more information that we take into consideration. Now, usually, when it comes to nationalities, some nationalities, it's true that they are more eager or more easier for them to go for an upsell. Americans in general, it's easier to upsell them, but usually it's easier in Europe or in Asia, in Africa, because it's a long trip. And it doesn't matter where you are at the moment, it's usually going to be more challenging to upsell your local guests. And most countries, when I go to the training, it's like, oh, my local guests are very stingy, they don't want to spend. It's not because they are from that country. It's because going to your hotel is not the trip of their life. They haven't been saving for like 5 years to do that trip because they may be living like 2 hours away from with a car. As opposed to Americans, Japanese, Korean people who have been maybe saving a few years or getting days, holiday days together to be able to take 2 weeks on holidays to go to your destination. And because it's kind of lifetime dream to go there, that's why they're more willing to spend that extra money for a suite or have a bigger room or the massage in the spa. But it's not that much linked to destination or origin. It's mostly about how special that trip, how unique is that opportunity when it comes to especially to big suites and that kind of upsells. Then with a number of people, it's also important to take consideration, focusing on the reservation information. Does one person need more space? Well, maybe they need a meeting area, for example. That could be an option. But otherwise, one person only doesn't really need much more space. Now, if it's 2 people, it's different, especially if it's a longer stay. More and more couples tend to have lesser trips. So one is working, the other one is taking a couple of days, going with his or her partner to enjoy a couple of days out. And whilst one is working, the other one is relaxing. So that's why it's very useful for them to have a separate working area or space in the room. Could be a living room, could be a balcony, for example. And then you have families. Could be 2 plus 1, 2 plus 2. And you know it happens sometimes that a couple books a double room, but then they show up with the kid that they forgot to mention the kid was coming as well. So you have a reservation for 2, reservation information, but then visually you see 2 plus 1. It's like, well, what's going on? You know, so do they fit in the double room they booked? Probably they don't. So it's a sort of a forced upsell in that case. So as you see, there's lots of different information that you see on the PMS. It's about of realizing how that information, it can be useful for a possible upsell then. And number three, we have the conversation information. So you've seen the guests coming into you, you have the information on the screen. Next and most important, it's talking to your customers. And we mentioned earlier that probably you cannot have a conversation with everyone, but we have to try to ask open questions. And the challenge we have from the reception point of view is that we tend to ask closed questions. So first questions we ask our customers, how are you? What's the answer to that? I'm fine. And they might not be fine, but it's just a formality. So when you think about yourself, you ask anyone on the street, how are you? They won't tell you, oh, you know what? My back hurts today. No, they don't. They say, I'm fine, you're fine, thank you very much. Now, next question we tend to ask at check-in time. How was your trip? Again, most people will say it was fine. If there was any trouble, they probably won't tell you, or they might. So the conversation goes into a sort of negative path. It's very unlikely they're going to tell you, oh, you know what? My taxi driver was super funny. He was telling me jokes. No, they won't. Okay, how was your trip? Fine. So you already have two questions. How are you? How was your trip? Fine, fine. We didn't get any information from the customer. So instead of that, let's try to ask open questions. So the first one, the opener, instead of saying, how are you? We can ask something like, where are you traveling from today? This question gives us two very useful points of information. One can be about the origin of the customer. Let's say, for example, you are in Germany and the customer tells you, oh, I'm coming from England. And you might have been there last year. You maybe went on holidays to London a few months ago, or you have a friend living there. That can be a point to connect with the customer. Okay? And the other one, in terms of where are they traveling from today, it's about how tired they might be. So we tend to assume that our customers are coming from where the passport was issued. So let's stick to Germany. I'm in Berlin, and I have a customer coming from Japan with a Japanese passport. A Japanese customer coming with a Japanese passport, and we assume he's coming from Japan. So we think, oh, poor guy, must be very tired, so I'm going to do a quick check-in. But maybe this person is only traveling from Frankfurt or Hamburg. So he's not that tired as he's flying from Japan. So ask them, where are you traveling from? So you might get a bit of a conversation going there. Then the second question, very important, it's about the purpose of the visit. And very often what we tend to ask is, are you here on business or leisure? Or are you here on business? Especially we see them with working clothes. And the guest will say yes or no. Again, closed question. So instead of that, ask them, what brings you to the city? What brings you to our property this time? And most likely they'll tell you, I'm here to do some business. I'm here to attend a meeting. I'm here to see my sister, my friends. I'm gathering on a convention, whatever it is. But they will give you useful information about the reason for the visit, and then you start linking points. Okay, that's the information from the reservation, that's the visual information I had, this information my customer is giving me. And based on how you see them willing to talk, you type in your stuff, you're scanning the ID or the credit card. There's one more question you can ask them, and it's about the needs during the stay. And it's as simple as asking them, for example, would you have any spare time in the evening, or do you have any plans for your stay? So business people, when they tell you I'm here for work, nobody works 24 hours a day, right? So if they're working 9 to 5, will they have any spare time in the evening? Will they have time to enjoy it in the executive lounge, in your spa maybe, going to the gym, doing some sightseeing? So there you go, you have information to share with them. It might not lead to an upsell, but at least you're creating a bond with the customer in there. And then focusing on the leisure guests, we don't know if they already have everything organized. They have a very tight agenda, seeing museums, sightseeing restaurants. So ask them, do you have any plans already? Can I help you with your agenda? Anything I can do to help you with your plans? So you will see also how much time they are planning to spend in the hotel. Because the more time your guests want to spend in the hotel, the more sense it makes to offer an upsell. At the end of the day, with the upsell, what we're doing is helping the guests enjoy their stay more. That's what it is. So that's the ultimate goal. And sometimes it happens to you that you check out the same guest that you checked in. And you realize, oh, I checked out this person 1 day ago, 2 days ago. If you've done the right upsell, it's likely that the customer is going to tell you, thank you for that room. We love the massage. The view was great for that room you recommended. Thank you very much. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guests who leave the hotel more satisfied, having paid more money. So recapping, we have the visual information, guests coming in, we sort of scan them, and we come from experience. 99.9% of the times, you know the guest you have in front of you. then you reconfirm with the reservation information, and to make sure, have a quick conversation, make the check-in more personal. We're trying to personalize the experience here, asking them about where they're traveling from, what brings them to the city, what plans they might have, and based on that, see if what they booked is exactly what they need, or you have another room, another service that it fits their stay better, that it's gonna make their stay more enjoyable. And then it's a matter of positioning it, which we're gonna watch on a different video. Thank you very much.